So the way this is going to work tonight, first, thanks everybody for showing up, and thanks everybody who has already signed up for the Lake Wallula event. If you haven't signed up for the Lake Wallula event, please sign up as soon as you can. It helps us to get our numbers showing to everybody. The way this is going to work is we're going to go through a few of the basics, the things that we've been answering a lot of questions already from people. So we're going to try and cover some of those common questions that we've been seeing a lot and just go over some of the basics of the event. And then after that, we're going to open it up and one by one go through your questions and see if we can answer more of them. I'll keep scrolling through this list to see if anybody else is trying to join. Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim. What?
I was gonna say, I know we got a couple that are messaging me that are trying to get on. So as they get on or try to, we'll have to see them. I just tell them don't panic; it'll be recorded. So
yeah, I'll keep watching for them. But I mean, they can do it by phone if they can't get in. There's phone numbers in that. All that info is in the Facebook post, including phone numbers if they can't get on via the app. Okay, so first of all, there comes one. So just as I start to do it. So first of all, I just want to talk a moment about the motor eligibility vote that's going to happen at the captain's meeting. That's not what this meeting is for, so I don't want to spend much time on it, but we are going to take a vote. The vote's going to be at the captain's meeting the day before at Three Rivers Tackle. And we're gonna decide about next year based on that vote. We tried to do the vote near the end of last year online, and the response to the vote was dismal. We had very low numbers of people that we asked multiple times to get people to do it, sent emails, and did it via Facebook, and we just didn't have the numbers, not nearly enough numbers for us to make decisions about what to do based on it. We're doing it at a tour event because these are the people that fish the events. They're the folks that are spending the money and showing up to do it. So they're the ones that have a voice. I've heard the argument, well, I have a motor and I don't fish them now, so why would I show up? Well, that's why you'd show up, so you can vote. And you don't have to fish. You can just show up to the captain's meeting if you want. As long as you're a member, you can show up at the captain's meeting and you'll get a chance to vote. We're not going to debate it. We're not going to talk about it. Everybody's heard the arguments. Nobody's changing their mind. So we just need to get the votes recorded. And that's pretty much all I have to say on that subject. Let's talk a little bit about, I'm going to go a little out of order on our list, guys, because one of the things that I think we're probably answering the most is fishing licenses. What we need to do about fishing licenses and AIS, those legal things. So some people in Oregon especially will ask me, well, do I need a Washington license? And the short answer to that is it depends on where you're going to fish. If you're fishing in the Columbia River and you've got Oregon on one side and Washington on the other side, then you're allowed to do that with either license. You can have a Washington license or an Oregon license. But that's only going to get you up to around the Walla Walla River area.
it's going to give you
from McNary Dam to the Walla Walla, roughly.
Yeah, you're going to be just before Port Kelly. It's 16 and a half miles of river is what you're going to be eligible to fish if you're going to fish off your Oregon license.
That's right. And you can do that, and you don't have to buy the Washington license. As long as you're fishing in that area, you're legal. We're not going to check fishing licenses. We're not going to ask you to show us your fishing license, but you are required by our rules and by the state laws to be fishing within the regulations. So if you want to fish in that other area up around Tri-Cities and further, then you got to have a Washington license. So unfortunately for the Idaho folks, most of the Idaho folks, that means you're going to have to get a Washington license. And I feel you on that. There's not much we could do about it. This is the most central location we could really come up with to do this. Most of the Oregon folks are going to end up buying a license. I already get a Washington license because I fish up there some during the year anyway.
For the Idaho folks, remember if you're fishing potholes too, though,
Get the
especially if you're
annual.
pre-fishing a day or two, I think the annual one for out of state is like $82.
It's cheap.
Might be
That'd
worth
be-
it.
Yeah,
Go to
even
Oregon.
for, it's like 2 or 3 days, the daily,
Yeah, I think anything more than
anything
3
annual, you
days,
might
the
as well
offset
do it.
is by the season, and especially if you're doing multiple events, and maybe this will open up something else you want to fish in Washington
That's
or
right.
something.
I mean, how far is Banks from you guys, Chris?
I don't know exactly. I would guess somewhere around 4.
I mean,
Well, it's
so
really
that's
far.
another option. If you get
Banks
to-
Lake.
yeah,
Banks Lake's almost 3 hours from me.
from you, and
Yeah,
you're
East or
how
west?
far
two and a half,
away to you?
2.5 hours.
So
Okay, so
from
maybe a
Boise
little bit
to
longer,
you-
but especially for our Coeur d'Alene folks, I mean, that might be
Yes.
an easy one
Yeah,
for
yeah,
them.
Absolutely. For the Northern Idaho folks, it's sorry, I got to let people in here. For the Northern Idaho folks, it's Banks is really close.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another reason to consider. Potholes and Banks are reasons to consider getting, or even a Soyuz for that matter. If you want to, the Northern Idaho people could fish a Soyuz as well. So for any of those folks, I would recommend they get the Washington license. I'm going to have the Washington license. Most of the people I've talked to in Oregon are going to have it. But yeah, if you want to fish that southern part of the region and only that southern part, Oregon license will work for you too. No problem.
And just it'll cut. If you don't get a Washington license, you're literally leaving out 26.8 miles of river system that you can't fish in.
That's
You
right.
open yourself up for the 16.5 miles, but there's only like 3 launch areas in that 16.5 miles, and it's in the first 6 miles of the river. So
that big chunk on the eastern side would be very hard to fish anyway.
And I did buy my license last week. It was $82.
nice.
And,
It cost me 100 and some to go to Oregon.
yeah, Oregon is.
I can't believe Washington's cheaper.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the boundaries next. One of the questions we're getting a lot is the map only shows down to about the Walla Walla River. And if you read the text, right, with the map, it says everything below there to McNary Dam is open. Again, I mean, as long as you're launching on public land, but like Jim said, down there, you kind of have to launch at the ramps, at the improved ramps anyways. There's not a lot of places to
No,
pull over
the only launches
and just
are
launch.
improved ramps down there.
Yeah. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I didn't bother putting that in the map because it would have made the map much smaller, and there's just nothing really to draw. I would draw the outline of the river to the dam, and that's it. So there's really not much to show. It's that upper area where it gets tricky, you know, where we've got some of these sloughs and backwaters and things where we need to define things. The other thing we're getting, and this is something you guys probably are going to want to reach out to us privately, because you're not going to want to do it here in this forum, is I'm thinking about launching here. Is this okay? Is this public? Is this private? And that's totally fine. You can reach out to us privately about those questions, and we will not tell anybody what you said. You know, I've had a couple of those. Jim knows that area better than any of us because he lives right there.
I've had a lot.
I'll answer it if I can, and if I can't, I'll pull Jim in to help answer that. But yeah, there are some tricky places that you kind of have to know. The main thing I picked up from Jim talking about it, and I'll let him chime in on that, is the no trespassing, because railroad tracks come into play. I'll let you talk about that, Jim.
So on the railroad tracks, guys, you know, I'll recap kind of what we did before. Last year, you know, we tried to we tried to find out whether or not we could cross the tracks as anglers, because everybody sees the dirt roads that go down the train tracks and you just drive over them and you could launch your kayak right there. Well, the short answer is if there's a crossing there and there's a stop sign there and like it's made for cars to go over, you can cross that section. In other words, in the middle of town where there's a train track, it'll look similar to that. If it's a dirt road that goes down beside the track, that's an access to that track. Those are no trespassing. We cannot go on there. You can't park off on one side of the tracks and drag your kayak over the tracks and go down. We're not allowed to do that. So here, there are some places where you can access the tracks and you can think, oh, I can get to the water down here, and you're not supposed to be there. So Here's the outside of us, when we watch for where we're launching, there's only one enforcement officer around here, and if he gets you, they're going to get you. But you got to really pay attention, guys. Do your homework and take a look at things. When you're doing that Friday pre-fishing thing, man, look at where your access is and pay attention, because I'm going to tell you, some of those signs are about 4 inches by 6 inches. They're not very big.
The no trespassing signs.
Yeah, they're not very big, but most of the places I can think of that are over here, they'll have a sign on either side of the dirt road. It'll say no trespassing, even though it's just a dirt road. Looks like you could go down it. I can tell you this, just so that if anybody's wondering, anywhere on the Highway 12 side, Burbank area, clear to the Walla Walla River, if you have to cross those tracks, there's no access to the sloughs via the tracks. You got to come in from the other side of the river. So if you guys are thinking about looking in some of those, you need to look hard and plan on coming from the Kennewick side and cross the river into those areas. There are public launches on that side of the river, but I'm getting a lot of questions is, can I launch here? Can I go here? Can I go here? And I have to tell people, no, that's my biggest question. So, and the river's not that wide to cross right there. It only takes a few minutes. I can be across it in 5 minutes. So
yeah, it's fairly skinny in that section.
Yep.
If in question, ask. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There are some areas over there, depending on where you want to do it, that you can get in there and do it. But I definitely, if you're thinking about launching somewhere like that, I definitely recommend researching it, talk to us, and go there and scope it out before tournament day. Don't go there for the first time Saturday morning and think you're going to find it. I mean,
in the dark.
It's going to be in the dark. You're not going to see a sign. If it's a 4-inch sign, you're sure not going to see it. So make sure you scout it out and know that you're not breaking the rules, because for this event, we are going to require everyone submit an entry photo of your launch. So right when you're about to launch, you need to take a selfie by your kayak. Hopefully that shows your light and your flag as well, right before you head out on the water. And we're going to check that. We're going to look at the GPS. You can just put it in for 1 inch or whatever. The size doesn't matter. But it'd be a regular fish submission photo that you would do. Attorney X is working on that. They're going to eventually have a check-in photo feature, but it's not in there yet. So for now, it'll just be a submission, like a 1 inch or a 0.1 inch submission, and we'll look at it. We'll deny it. But when we deny it, we can still access it in the, and we'll probably change the size to like 0.1 so that they're all consistent. We know where they are. And we can go back and look at them, even if it's been denied. So your first fish of the day, everyone will be denied, which is good. I like that.
One more thing I just want to clarify real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Guys, that I just said crossing pretty much all the tracks around here. On one side of the tracks, the private property is literally a 20-foot area either side of the track. Past that, it's wildlife refuge or area, and you can be there. It's just you can't cross that section of track, okay? So if you get down to where you can and you come in, you're fine. But you can't use that dirt road on the access property of the no trespassing. And everything's pretty well marked. I just don't want people to get confused and go, well, that's wildlife area. It says I can be there, but you can't cross the tracks. That's the thing. And I do it all the time here. I walk down and I go fish. I walk down and I cross the tracks all the time when I'm just fishing. I did it my whole life here, but we can't trespass when we're doing this. So
we can't condone people trespassing.
Right.
That would get us in trouble. So we can't condone it. One thing you told me about some of those areas too, Jim, is even if it is like a wildlife area, there's really no way to get to the bank and launch a kayak in a lot of those areas.
A lot of it is steep.
Yeah.
It's pretty vertical. So
yeah, that's going to be the name of the game with this one. We fish a lot of places that all we really have are improved ramps. Well, there are places you can launch here that are not improved ramps, but you're going to have to do your homework and your legwork once you get there to figure out if you can do it. So yeah, make sure you're right, because we're going to be checking it. And if you're selfie is right in an area that we know you could not have gotten to without trespassing, you're going to get disqualified for that. So be careful.
And don't be, guys, if you guys have a question and you're on the water and you're worried about it, man, message us or call us. I'll
Pick up
stop
the
what I'm
phone.
doing and answer a question. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. And I'm not going to go talk to anybody or tell anybody what you're doing. I'll just tell you, yeah, you can or no, you can't. I mean,
That's
if
right.
you can send a picture, I will help you. Just, we don't want nobody to get in trouble. That's
Yeah,
all.
you
That's
will
all
not
we
get in
do.
trouble for asking us if you're going to penalize. That's
No.
no problem. You can ask us. And self-service should be great anywhere in the boundaries we have. So there shouldn't be any problem with picking up the phone and calling me, calling Jim, calling Chris, any of the three of us. If you can't get one of us, try another one. But yeah, that's no problem. Let's see what else we got here in terms of that. We did that. Oh, so let's talk about AIS a little bit. Jim, did you get my message on that earlier today that they're switching it back? They didn't like that new system. I
Great.
sent you a message about that earlier.
Yeah,
So
I was working.
Washington is kind of changing around. They were trying a new AIS reporting system. They do it a little differently than, here comes Lacey Duggar. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably too much paperwork because that's what I have. It's too much
I mean,
paperwork.
yeah, it's just, you got to have 50, 60 sheets of paper. It's
I
crazy. And
actually
then
have a
scan them
stack.
all in, and yeah,
I have a stack like this. I have to mail. So I forgot about that. I gotta mail.
it's crazy. So anyway, they're going back to sort of the old system. So it's a little different than Oregon. Like in Oregon and Idaho, I think are very similar. We just have to buy a pass, an AIS pass that helps pay for the AIS system. Well, in Washington, there's a form you are supposed to fill out at the event. You have to fill it out. We have to turn them in after the event. And it says whether you have been, the old one, it said if you had been out of the state. So if you were if you were an Oregon person going up and fishing a Washington event, you had to say, yes, I have fished out of the state in the last, whatever it is, month, I think it is. And you've cleaned your boat, you've, used hot water on it and dried it and made sure there's no AIS. And then you sign off on that sheet that you've done that, and Jim signs it as well, being the director on site. We don't do that in Idaho or Oregon, but Washington does. And what they have started doing now is they're kind of looking the other way in terms of Idaho and Washington, which is great for us. If you've been in Idaho or Washington, that's not a problem. You can still show up and say, I've only been in Washington, Idaho, or Oregon. So you don't have to clean your boat any special way for that. If you've been in another state other than those three, then you do. You need to clean your boat thoroughly before you come. Use bleach on it, use boiling water, whatever, to kill any AIS. Aquatic invasive species is what we're talking about. And I don't know. So they're saying they're going to go back to the old form, which is better. The old form holds like 25 names or something. So we'll only need like 3 or 4 of them, right?
We just sign them all.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
just
just
sign
sign
your name and you put your address and you check off that your boat hasn't been out of those 3 states. And that's really all you have to do. And we'll have those forms at the, we could probably do those at check-in. At the captain's meeting, right, Jim? Or do we have to do those on tournament day?
Say it again. I was answering questions.
Do we have to do the AIS at the tournament? We
Yes.
can do that at the captain's meeting, can't we?
Captain, yeah, absolutely. Captain's meeting. That's what I always do. Yeah, captain's
Okay,
meeting can be
great.
done. I would assume all the paperwork will get done at the captain's meeting at Three Rivers.
Well,
It's just
normally our
easier-
captain's meeting would be right before the event.
Right.
So it wouldn't
But-
be the same thing. But yeah, we're not doing that for this one. So yeah, we'll do that at the captain's meeting. So
Yep.
we won't have to worry about it on tournament day. That leads me into sort of the next subject to talk about, which is the captain's meeting. You've seen that we're strongly, we're pretty much making it mandatory.
Okay.
If you have a reason that you absolutely can't make it, then talk to me or Jim or Chris, and we'll see if we can get you an excuse for not being at the captain's meeting. But we really, expect you to be there. And there are a couple of reasons I want to touch on, and then I'll let
No, I
Jim and
got
Chris
you.
touch on those too. But one is just safety and making sure everybody knows what's going on. This is Big River, you know, we want to be sure we can go over everything and make sure everybody's safe and everybody's doing things within the rules. We're covering a lot of you here tonight. But there are going to be people that aren't here tonight and maybe don't watch the YouTube. And so we need to talk to them and make sure they understand they're doing everything within the rules. The other big one is Three Rivers Tackle. The biggest reason probably is Three Rivers Tackle is a really important sponsor of ours. And I will let you,
Especially for me, this is important. You guys, Shannon at Three Rivers Tackle has not only stepped up to support us, he's excited about us. He is one of the, I mean, he's one of the only, I don't want to say only guys, but he's one of the biggest supporters in our area here. A lot of the guys still kind of think we're in their way, but Shannon literally, he talks about us to the other anglers. He supports us big time. He also turned down a tournament this weekend up at Banks Lake to help us out and let us do our stuff, our event with him. So, you know, it's important for us to support him back. The other side of that is, guys, it has been a struggle to promote kayak fishing, period. You know, in our world, we see it and everything's great and we love it and this is good. But if you get out in the places, especially in Eastern Washington, from my experience, where people don't see a lot of us, and when they do see us, we're just in the way. I don't know if you saw the podcast from KBN that they just had, they posted up, where the bass boat guy rammed the kayak guy and they got in a fight in the dock. I mean, that just happened the last tournament on Eufaula. So it's that kind of stuff. The more, I shouldn't say the more, but the bigger turnout we have to these types of things, the more eyes we're going to open and people are going to go, wow, this is impressive. I mean, and it's a big deal. So I'm excited for this event for all three of us. I'm excited to have all of us at Shannon's shop doing our captain's meeting and doing our weigh-in. Shannon's going to take some great photos. Everybody take photos and stuff, but Shannon's going to put it out there. It's going to be kind of to me, it's going to really help us get out there, which means we're going to get a lot more sponsors. Our sponsorships are starting to come at us now. And, you know, we've had some big changes this year. Well, the more we get seen and the more participation we have, those sponsors look at that and go, wow, these guys are real. And the Pacific Northwest, I'm telling you, they're not known for bass fishing. Everybody thinks there ain't nothing up here. They all do. We listen to that Ryan Lambert, you know, what's up there? There's a river and I heard of something or other. I mean, I'm like, what the heck? So this is this is kind of our way to get ourselves on the map and get ourselves noticed. So
yeah, and we'll do photos at the weigh-in too. But for this event, with everybody launching all over the place, we won't have anything really the day of that shows the mass group like Jim's talking about. So we really need it at the captain's meeting where things be a little more relaxed and we can have a good time and get some good photos. And we'll do it again at the weigh-in as well. But yeah, I mean, 100% I agree with what Jim said. Chris, do you have anything to add to the captain's meeting?
No, I think you guys are stressing it enough.
Okay. But that's it. I mean, I've had people ask me, you know, what's the deal with captain's meeting? That's it. That's the deal with captain's meeting.
we want you there.
We want you there for the sponsor, and we want you there so that we can talk to everybody before sending them out on the Columbia.
Yes.
And speaking of sending them out on the Columbia,
Board checks.
and board checks, we need to do board checks. If you do get permission from us to not be at the captain's meeting, if you absolutely cannot get out of work, or, you know, you're at your sister's wedding on Friday evening, you know, okay, that's a little weird, but okay, we'll talk about that. But if something like that happens, then the other thing that's going to come with that is that means you're going to have to meet me Saturday morning
In person.
for a physical check-in. We're going to force you to do that. And like Jim has already said, there's a lot of miles of river here. So depending on where you want to launch, if you got to meet me in the morning, that means we're both going to be getting on the river later than we really want to get on the river. So another factor to consider if you're thinking about trying to not attend the captain's meeting for some reason. Plus, like I said earlier, this is tricky in terms of where to launch and everything. It's a very good idea to get there a day early if you can. And even if you don't fish, just drive around and scope it out, figure out where you're going, figure out how to get to Three Rivers Tackle for the weigh-in, figure out where you're going to launch, all those things. See what your cell service is like. It should be great everywhere, but see what it is. I mean, if you've got cricket or something like that, you may have trouble. That's possible. Okay, I started to go somewhere with that.
One other thing too, guys, when you're thinking about having to kind of, I don't know who's going to be upset if they got to make a captain's meeting or whatever, but this is kind of a team effort thing. None of us should, when it comes to our sponsors and supporting them like they support us, none of us should think about it on an individual level. We should think about it as a group. We're all, teamwork makes the dream work, man. And the bigger the team, the bigger the voice we're going to have, and the more people are going to see us, we're going to get noticed, and we're going to be noticed. People are going to notice us, and they're going to want to be more of the, we want to support you guys. We want to do this. It's just going to it's going to equal higher payouts in the future. It's going to be more people. It's going to be more competition. It's only going to make great things, for us. So we need everybody's pretty smiling face standing there in front of us. And Shannon's shop will be open. You guys can go through it. And it is, if you've not been there, it is an absolutely amazing shop. It is one of the best I've ever been in.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that aspect of it as well. That's the other thing. When you show up there, if you want to buy any gear or anything, somebody is not muted. I'm muting whoever's not muted. I want to be sure that we show Shannon some love at Three Rivers Tackle. He's staying late just to host us on Friday, and then he's hosting us again Saturday for the weigh-in. So show up with some money and buy some gear from him, please. Please support him, because supporting him and supporting all our sponsors pays us back. That's why Next Adventure has stepped up. I did the research, figured out roughly how many kayaks they sold to our members, and said, you guys need to give us money to pay our people, to attract more people, to get bigger numbers, because we're sending them to you. And we looked at the numbers and they said, okay, you're right. And they did. That's why they're, and Old Town has done the same thing. Jackson Kayak has done the same thing. A Plus Bail Bonds is back with us again. Those are our cash sponsors. All those sponsors have donated cash that helps increase our payouts for everybody. So say thanks to them, please.
Before we move on about the shop, Jim, you can answer this one, or these two. There's an empty lot, correct, for parking adjacent to the shop, so plenty of parking.
Yeah, he's got, so when you pull into Shannon's shop, you're gonna pull in, you're gonna go, holy cow, this is the neighborhood. And when you go in there, his shop is kind of up on a hill. You don't drive up the road to the hill. There is a vacant, all grass lot. It's about an acre or so. And we can all just pull in there and park in there. Think about what you're doing as far as our pre-fishing for that day is from sunrise until 11:59 a.m. You have to be off the water by then. And then the captain's meeting is at 5 o'clock. So there's plenty of time for those guys, especially. I think I have got close to 20 people staying here at my place. Bring your trailer if you've got a trailer, bring it here, drop it off, and then go to Shannon's. Because I'm coming home after. I'm not going to go straight. Well, I'm going to go to Shannon's early because I want to help do whatever there is to get done. But I'm just saying, come drop your kayak, your trailer off if you need to, and then go in there. And there's plenty of parking, plenty of stuff in there. It's a nice place.
So most of the people here have probably attended one of the season kickoff opens in Washington or Oregon. The Idaho one is coming up. And I just want to touch on something again that I just continually get asked at the events, and I just want to make sure everybody understands the way it works. And that's our liability waiver. There is an online liability waiver that we expect everybody to fill out. That one is primarily to cover us on everybody. The people who only fish online challenges and are never going to come to a tour event, but it's also for the people that are going to fish tour events so that we have a digital copy of their information stored there. Everybody needs to do that once per season. And then if something changes, you get a new kayak, you get a new vehicle, it's a good idea to go and do that again, fill that out again for us. But regardless of that online waiver, everybody who fishes a live event, every single person who fishes a live event must fill out a paper liability waiver. You can, it's in the email that I sent, and I send at all our events. I think Chris included in his. I'm not sure if Jim did in his, but you can download that, print it out at home, fill it out, and bring that hard copy with you to the captain's meeting. That's totally fine if you want to do that, and it'll save some time if you do that. Otherwise, we'll have a bunch of blank ones there that we can hand out to you before we really get started, and you'll have a chance to fill it out and do that. The reason we do that, one is to cover KFNW's butt, right? That's why we have a waiver to begin with. But the reason we make you do this paper one reason is we always want a paper liability waiver for everybody that's on the water in case somebody goes missing, in case we have to go looking for them. I want to pull out that paper and say, okay, this is what kayak they have. This is what color it is. This is their vehicle, their license plate, and we're going to go looking for you. And we're going to call and get the authorities to come looking for you if we can't find you. And that leads us into the other huge thing is, if for any reason you ever need to leave an event early, it is imperative that you let the tournament director know. So in this case, any of the three of us tournament directors, let me, Jim, and or Chris know. If for some reason you can't reach the tournament director, let's say it's a different tour event, not this one, that service is really poor and you just can't reach them and you absolutely have to leave. Well, there are a number of things you can do. One is you can find a couple of other anglers who are fishing and say, look, I got to go. Please let Marvin, Chris, Jim know that I had to leave. Especially if it was a shotgun start and you know where everybody was, write a note, stick it on our car too. Do multiple things if you can, just to make sure we know. Luckily, so far we've been afraid that has happened. We've had to look for people. We've had to call people, but luckily nobody has gone missing. And we would like that record to stay intact if at all possible. But if the day does come that we have to go looking for you, we want that hard copy so that it makes it that much easier for us to go looking. First thing we're going to do is pick up the phone and call the number that you wrote down and say, hey, where are you? And we'll just step it up from there if we don't get you that way.
Marvin, I do have one just real quick. I don't mean to cut in, but I got one
go right ahead.
question. I had one question that was, what if they, the question was, if I send a photo in of my first launch, when I launch, if I move to a new launch, do I have to send a photo again? My reply to that was, yes, you have to send a photo every time you launch your kayak. We need to see your beautiful little face in front of your kayak at your launch.
That's right. And we are going to use the virtual check-in feature also. So we're going to ask you to do both. We're going to ask you to do the virtual check-in, and then we're going to ask you to take a selfie and upload it as a submission. And if you move locations, do that whole thing again. When you get off the water at your first location, check out. You don't have to take a picture when you get off the water, but check out virtually. Drive to your other spot where you're going to launch, check in, take your selfie, and launch as many times as you want to change positions. And that's viable. This is a lot of water. So moving from one spot to another is not.
Yeah.
I mean,
if somebody goes missing, this is going to give us our, where do we start searching thing if somebody does go missing, which nobody will, but we just, people.
But yeah, that's why. That's
People want to
exactly
be-
why, is we need to know the last place you got on the water so that we can start looking there. Let's see, we went over that. Okay, let's talk about Attorney X. Another thing is, I would like you to make sure that you look at your settings on your phone. There's a couple settings you really need to make sure of on your phone. Make sure your GPS settings are correct on your phone, that you're allowing GPS for Attorney X. We still get people that aren't doing that. And when they upload while they're on the water, it's taking their current location and uploading that. And so it might be where the fish was approximately, but it's not exact. And especially, like with the online challenges, when they do that, it says
It
they're
ended
at
up at their
home.
house.
It says they're at home when they're fishing, and they weren't, obviously. So make sure the GPS settings are correct. If you're involved with the online challenges, that's a good way to make sure it's working right, is take your pictures on the water and then upload it when you get home. And if it's wrong, we're going to tell you then. So, if you fish in between now and Wallula and you want to test it on an online challenge, go ahead and do that. But otherwise, just go in and check your settings and make sure it's right. One of the easy ways you can do it is just delete Attorney X from your phone, reinstall it. And the first time you open it, say yes to all the permissions. It's going to ask you about permissions. Just say yes to all of them. Because you really need to make sure that that's working. The other thing I want you to do is make sure your phone is set up to accept push notifications. We're going to be using push notifications in Attorney X more this year. We'll kind of let you know when things are happening. Like if we're taking standings offline, we'll let you know when we're doing that. We'll send a push for that. If the weather changes, if we have to cancel an event because the weather starts getting nasty, that's one way we will reach out to you. It's one of the best ways we can reach out to you, because it only takes us a few seconds to go into Attorney X and send a push notification to everybody, and you'll get a little pop-up on your phone that tells you that. It's a lot faster than me trying to call each one of you, especially for this event where we're going to have, around 100 people probably. So yeah, please do that. Please check push notifications. Also in Attorney X, please go into your profile and make sure all that information is correct and up to date. Your email is current and up to date. It's the email you're using. Your emergency contact info. That's another place we capture that emergency contact info. The waiver has it and Attorney X has it. Put that all in there, because we can look at everybody in the back end of Attorney X. We can look at everybody who's fishing a tournament and get your phone number and your emergency contact phone number from there too. So it's just another way of us to try and get a hold of you. So make sure all that profile stuff is up to date.
And Marvin, if people have issues with getting Attorney X to read their location, I think they can
GPS,
contact me for Android, and you have Apple. I'm not sure what Jim and Chris have.
I have Apple too.
Yeah,
Apple.
they're both
For
Apple.
Just delete it, reinstall it, say yes, it fixes everything.
Apple's a little simpler in terms of Attorney X. There are a couple of steps with Android to make it happen, but yeah, Matt's a great one to ask if you're having issues with Android and getting GPS to work. We've had a couple people that have had perpetual issues with that with Android, and sometimes it's the specific phone. And in that case, I'll probably put you in touch with Dwayne at Attorney X. If it gets that specific, that we've done everything right and it's still not working properly, then I'll probably put you in touch with Dwayne, and we'll see if we can figure out if it's your specific phone that just isn't working.
And Dwayne has a lot of YouTube videos too that covers both kinds of phones, all the different platforms. He does a good job of putting everything out there. So if you're bored and you want to look, YouTube has a lot of resources from Dwayne.
Absolutely. The identifier code will be released at 10 p.m. On the 13th, the night before. It'll be released on Attorney X, and there's a post will appear on Facebook as well. And we should have service, so you'll be able to get it from either place. We'll have it, of course, in the morning if you need to call us for any reason. You know, if you can't find the code, just call us and we'll let you know. As usual, for our online challenges, we use the individual codes. Everybody has a different code for the online challenges, a unique code. For these live events, we will always have one code for everybody who's fishing the event. So I'll know what everybody's code is without looking it up. I'll just know it. So yeah, just contact me, contact Jim or Chris, or probably anybody else. But you know, here's one tip I would give you on that, because we've had this happen a couple of times. If you're getting a code from another angler, look at it if you can. Have them show you the code and read it off the paper as you write it down. Don't ask them and have them shout it out to you, because it's too easy to make a mistake. We've had people in the past who transposed a couple of characters, or you know, some numbers and letters sound like the same numbered letter, or they read it wrong. Like they read it off the thing and they see, I mean, if it's an I and a 1, we're not really going to worry about that. We're going to give it to you if it's an I and a 1. But you know, like a Z and a 2 are kind of similar, right? An S and a 5 are kind of similar. So again, an S and a 5, we're probably not going to notice, but be careful. Just be careful about your ID code. And there's a couple of our anglers I know who are really careful about their code. They are fanatical about making sure their code is right. And you know, make sure it's in Sharpie. Don't take a pencil and write that code in and put it in a tourney tag. Those tourney tags are a little bit of trouble anyway, because the hollow space in there and the light hits it right. It just blows out. We've denied fish because we can't read the code, and we will not accept it if we can't read the code. So make sure the code is readable. Use a Sharpie to make it nice and bold and dark. Make sure, you know, the other tip I wish people would do more is when you're taking a photo of it and the identifier's in the photo, take your finger on the phone and touch the identifier on the screen of the phone. And what that does is it optimizes the contrast and the light settings for the phone to focus on the identifier. And if your identifier is blown out, if the sun's right on it, it's blown out, and you touch it, boom, it'll come in and you'll be able to see it. And then you have a few seconds then to take the photo while the contrast and everything is set right. But that's a really good tip if you're in bright sun and you're worried about that glare, is just tap the screen of your phone on the identifier, then take the photo, and it'll be a lot better. Trust me.
I also suggest you put it in 2 boxes. You get 6 boxes on a code sheet. Put the code in 2. That way, if it's one of them's obscured, glared, whatever, we can still see it. Great
tip. We've got a few anglers who I've seen will put it in all 6 boxes.
Yeah.
We had to deny one of our anglers. He had a 21.5-inch smallmouth bass, and I got the photo and I couldn't read the identifier, and I sent it to Marvin and Chris, and I go, tell me what the identifier code is. Without knowing what the identifier code is, can you tell me what it is? And they couldn't read it. And I knew what it was, and I was thinking maybe, but I'm like, man, I can't read any of that. And we had to deny that fish. Well, if you're fishing this event and you got glare on your photo, and we can't read it, it's unfortunate to lose that, because there's some tanks here. It could happen.
Big largemouth and big smallmouth. Smallmouth. So there's opportunities for great fish.
Yeah, and the guys that are new, because we got a lot of new guys, this is how I do it. I know you can take a picture through Tourney X and submit your photo, but if you can't, if we say, hey, do you have another photo? You're gonna go, no, I don't have another photo. If you take the photos on your phone and take more than one, and then submit that photo, because it'll let you browse your photos as long as you said yes to all the permissions. It'll let you browse them. You could submit it. You can even click on it or you can add it to what is going to be your submission. You can even click on it at that point, zoom in, make sure your inches, make sure it's the proper photo, and then you can go down and you put in how many inches it is, whether it's largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and then you click submit, and it'll ask you to the leaderboard or what, blah, blah, blah. But if you see it on your phone and we look at it on a computer, sometimes we can't read that. We're not seeing the same picture you're seeing.
That's right. If you've got a new phone that's super high res,
Yeah.
sometimes you can see stuff on there that we don't get on Tourney X.
Right. And so you'll be like, well, it looks fine here, but it don't look fine to us. And the unfortunate thing is, if it's great on your phone and not great on the submission, we can't take it.
Yeah.
So I would take as many pictures as you can. Like I tell all the new guys, and I told a bunch of new guys in American Lake, and I'm only saying this because I see we got new guys, and I got so many new guys, is take your fish, you catch your fish, set him in the net, get your board out, get everything ready, let that fish chill out. And then once that fish chills for a second, pick him up, put him on the board, make sure everything's good. When you're taking your picture, make sure you can see the fence, the whole entire fence, which is the part of the board that's straight up and down that the fish's mouth goes against. You want to see that fence. And then make sure that your identifier at the other side is in the picture as well. Don't just take a picture and get focused on the fence and then there's no identifier. We had to deny a photo. Yes, or cropped. We had to deny a photo at American Lake because he had no identifier in the photo. And unfortunately, that would have won them the event.
They would have won.
It lost him 10 inches. So make sure of that stuff is all in there. And then what I do is I'll take a photo and I'll take that fish. I'll put him back in the net in the water. So he's chilling and breathing. I'll look at my photo. And as soon as I got everything on my photo that I know is good, I'm like, all right, thanks, bud. And I turn him loose and then away I go. So you got to double check your photos.
Wet your board is the other tip.
Your board.
While the fish is chilling in the net and you're getting your board out, wet it. Get it. One, it gets the temperature of the board the same as the water.
Right.
Two, it just
You're not pulling the slime off the
it's
fish.
easier on their slime coat and everything. It's just much more comfortable for them. They don't freak out. When I was in Arizona, if you didn't do that, you'd fry the fish on after the sun had been beaten on like an aluminum board. Forget it.
And another thing, Marvin, you should probably touch on, because you told me there was a ton of cracked mouths, is cracked mouths. The guys need to understand.
We
That's a
changed
half-inch
that last year, and so everybody should be aware of that from who's fishing with us last year. But it's
The new
open or
guys-
closed. That's it. There's no quarter inch. It's open or closed. So it's got to be shut. And the way to get it to shut is push that fish against the fence tight,
Push him up
and
there.
that will gnash their mouth closed.
And like we've said, if he's got a misformed jaw, unfortunately, you're going to get a half-inch deduction.
You're gonna get dinged.
So hopefully that don't happen. But if you take that fish and, like Marvin said, slide him forward, his hinge goes in place, his mouth will shut. Smallmouth are the devil when it comes to measuring or to get a picture of one. You can push it in there and do it. I had a deduction this weekend and I pushed that fish as hard as I could, but his face just didn't come together. But that's a half-inch deduction. So
It was borderline. You did get it. You got the half-inch, but it was close.
Yeah.
Watch the gill plate too.
yeah,
A lot of the time you can tell it's cracked because the gill plate's up.
That's
And
the
it's a
hinge.
giveaway.
Funny.
yeah. If you put
It's up and it's questionable, it's open.
Yeah. Yep. And it's, so you want to make sure when you look at your pictures that mouth is absolutely shut. And if you want to see a photo of a closed mouth, I'm more than happy to send you, because I keep them. So I have examples for people that are, this is cracked, this is closed. And once you're going, that's not cracked. And then I send you one that's closed, you go, oh, that's cracked.
Different. It's different. Yeah.
It's absolutely so. And that's a thing. That's a new thing for, we were getting the cracked mouth is a thing. And a lot of other tour events have the same thing. So
I've got two items left to go over, and then we're going to open it up to questions. The first one, I'm going to let Jim talk more about, because it's a little unique in this area because of the angle of the river. Let's talk about the wind, because that's everybody's fear with the Columbia.
right.
Is wind, and it's a valid fear because
It
the
is
wind
very
can be nasty on that river. In certain areas of the river, it can be deadly.
Yes.
And you're combining wind with current. So
Right. So the Columbia, the way the Columbia lays, if you're gonna come from the dam, the river runs east-west right there. Well, the wind always blows out of the southwest on us. That section of river up to Port Kelly and just around the corner, if the wind is blowing, it's going to be unfishable. So, I mean, we'll all need to watch the weather. But you get up in front of here where I'm at, where I live, you get about the peninsula all the way up to the border at the Yakima River. The wind can be doing 60, and it's not going to lift that because the water flows with the wind there. it doesn't even pick the waves up a quarter of an inch hardly. It makes little white things. Now it will push you all over the place and make it a nightmare for you, but it's not going to, you're not going to be in giant waves. And there are lots of places to get out of the wind. Lots. You just got to do your homework and you got to find them. So when you're doing your research and you're looking at things, we don't know what the weather is going to do yet. Do your research for the weather as well. There are fish up and down this entire system. And I have been hearing people catching big fish up and down within all of our boundary that we're going to allow guys to fish.
Yep.
There's been people catching giant smallmouth right now everywhere and some largemouth. So you just do your homework and you'll be fine. And, you know, we don't want anybody to do anything outside of what they are comfortable with. But, you know, you should be, you know, granted, I've fished here all of my life. For the section above, I have fished in 40-mile-an-hour winds in my kayak and not had a problem, other than I was trolling. So I just trolled into it. So I went straight. I wasn't bass fishing. I was walleye fishing, but still I was fishing. Down below, you start getting some chop and some waves, but it's not, you know, terrible. You get around the corner, like I said, and head towards McNary Dam. If the wind's ripping, that will be unfishable. That will be unfishable. So, but
especially if you're in if you're a paddle kayaker,
yes,
find one of the cuts or the sloughs and get away from the main river.
Yeah, the
if
wind will
is
mess
picking
with the
it up.
paddle kayaker, because everybody in here, we've all been in paddle kayaks, and in a 10-mile-an-hour wind, you know, if you stop paddling, it pushes you back 5 feet faster than you can turn around and make another stroke. So that is one thing. But if you get back into some of the sloughs or get back out of the way or up in the Yakima or whatever, you'll be fine. You're going to totally be fine. So,
Well, one suggestion I have too, if you're really worried about the rivers, maybe find someone else to fish with and kind of a buddy system, just to,
Absolutely.
for safety reasons. I mean, there's plenty of people there. You'll find someone's going to be fishing the area that
And
you
there's
want to
plenty
fish
of fish.
too.
Yeah.
and the river is not like this raging, swift Holland tail system. You know, the closer up to our north boundary you get, there is some current up there, but it's like a mile and a half. It's not even, it's really not bad. You know, this is just like, it's like a lake. It's not, you know, don't be so afraid of it.
It's Lake Wallula.
Yeah, it's well, yeah, but it's not, you know, this monster that you're going to put your kayak on and not want to go out. It's
Yeah,
no different.
you're going to see more current if you go into some of the rivers, right? In some of the tributaries.
Yes, if you go up into the Wallula or up into the Yakima, you're going to see more current. But it's not enough current to like blow you out of the river. It's just enough current to make you have to work a little bit harder to go up it. That's all.
I said I had one more thing, but I just remembered something else that reminded me when we were talking about this. We are going to open up the Walla Walla to that launch, right?
Yes.
We're going to allow people, we're going to make a little change in the eligible boundaries because we realized there was really no good way with where the boundaries were to launch at the Walla Walla. The current is strong there. So you really can't launch there and stay in the river.
The way it works right there is there's a launch. You cannot fish. Your boundary is that boat launch. Okay. Yeah, that's your boundary. You cannot go east
from there.
of the boat launch, upstream of the boat launch, but you can fish all of that water downstream, and that's good stuff. Okay. Past the boat launch, the current, there's some not rips, but some tails and stuff up there. But below the boat launch, it flattens out and starts to back up against the Columbia, and even though there's a flow, it's nothing that's you're not going to be able to get up and down in.
You can get back to the launch if you
even a paddle kayaker could scoot up that. But if you get upriver of the launch and it goes around the corner, you'll definitely be in somewhere you're like, okay, this is a little swifter. I mean, you could pedal up it, but it'd just be a little more workout. But nobody can go past the launch. You can't go upriver of the launch, but there's probably a mile and a half of the Walla Walla below the launch that you can fish. So,
okay. So there's a chunk there. So
yes.
I'll make an update to the boundaries about that. I'll probably redo the map and I'll certainly update the text to talk about that as well. We also made another little change to the schedule. We pushed everything back just 15 minutes because we were worried it was just a little too early, a little too dark. So you know, what I usually try and do with the times is set up where launch time is before dawn and lines in is somewhere in between dawn and sunrise. And so that's where we have it. Lines in is still a little bit before sunrise. But this way, when you're launching, if you're launching 30 minutes before lines in, if you're launching right at the launch time, this should be a little light. It's not quite first light yet, but, or not quite safe light, but it is first light. So just to keep everybody a little bit safer. So that's one little change that has already been made. The schedule does reflect that 15 minutes now. Okay, so the last thing I have, because I've had a few questions about this too, is this weird rules exception we're going to make for online challenges in regards to this. We're going to allow you, if you're pre-fishing Friday morning, and you know our new pre-fishing rule says you can do your official practice day is Friday. You can't fish the week before, or from Monday through Thursday, you can't fish. But Friday morning, and when we say you can't fish, you can't be on the water in a boat, you can't be on the water in a kayak, nothing. You can't get out there and raft. No fishing, no boating, no kayaking, nothing. It's off limits. But then Friday morning, you can launch at sunrise and fish from sunrise until 11 a.m. So you've got, you know, what, 5-6 hours of ability to look for fish, to graph, map where you're thinking about fishing, whatever you want to do, use that time wisely and figure it out.
They need to make sure that we let them know you need to be off the water by that end time.
That 11 o'clock is an off the water time. So be back at the launch. Be back at the launch at 11 and get out of the water.
And off the water.
Don't stop fishing at 11, 2 miles from the launch, and that won't work. The online challenges. If you're pre-fishing in that practice period on Friday, you can record the fish you catch and you can submit them to any of your state online challenges. So even the Idaho folks who are not even in that area, right? You're going to be able to submit that to the IKBF season long, the monthly. I think the Washington one for May. Yeah, the Washington May is a pick your day.
Right, it's at the end of the month.
So you wouldn't be able to do your monthly.
No, you could do
you could do the
KFNW
season long.
Yeah.
And Oregon and Idaho will be, that's great that it turned out that way. I don't know that I planned it that way, but you know, you guys are there all the time. So it's the folks that are coming in that'll be able to submit to our monthlies. Oregon and Idaho will be able to submit to our monthlies. On Friday, you'll be able to do it. And any of the fish you catch on Saturday, you'll be able to do it. I've had people ask me if I'm pre-fishing there a week before, or if I'm staying an extra day. Nope, not going to work. Can't do that.
Marvin.
Yeah.
Cherie's got a question and she may unmute herself. And
well, everybody at this point who has a question, please use the hand raise feature of Zoom. There's a little place down there that you can click raise my hand, or just raise your actual physical hand like this. And we're going to go one by one through you and answer your questions. So
her question was, could you go over the overlapping of the tournament and challenges again? I don't think it affects, she's in Washington. It don't really affect us in Washington.
Well, you're season long. It means that
it's just season long, but
any fish you catch on Friday in the practice period or on Saturday during the tournament, you would be able to submit to your season long, but you would anyways with Washington.
Right. It would
entire boundary is within Washington. So it doesn't affect, it's only Idaho and Oregon, and it's only Oregon if you're fishing the northern part of our boundaries. But for the Idaho guys especially, it's cool because, I mean, the 50-50 season long, they can catch some tank smallmouth that are really going to help their season long. You know, it's a little tough sometimes to find a 20, 21-inch smallmouth. Some guys are doing it, but a lot of the smallmouth we see in a number of the common places people fish in Idaho are, you know, 18 or 19 is a real big one. So yeah, you got a chance to beat that here. So I hope that answers your question, Sherry. So raise your hand if you've got a question. Alex is right at the top. I'm going to answer him. So you can unmute yourself, Alex, and ask your question. And then when you're done, you can mute yourself back again. Alex Perez. Alex,
You're frozen.
ask him to unmute. He's probably talking. You got to unmute yourself, Alex. If you
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I was.
There you go.
I'm currently at work right now. It's kind of loud. I had to step out. I have a
Okay.
question. So, about the entry fee. I'm it's like my first year getting into kayak fishing and doing any tournaments or anything like that. Do we have to pay at the captain meet, or do we do it online?
You're talking about for our event, not for the Wild West event, right?
Yeah, for the event. Yeah, for May.
You
14th.
should sign up right away, because the deadline for signing up is a week before the event, is the what is it, the Friday before the event at
6th.
at 11:59 p.m. If you sign up later than that, then you got to pay an extra $10 late fee just for the trouble of signing up late.
Okay.
So get signed up on TourneyX. You go to TourneyX. If you need to find it in TourneyX, you can go to our schedule on the website. I think you and I talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Go to the schedule, click on the TourneyX link next to the Lake Wallula event. That'll take you to TourneyX. Register for the event, and you'll pay through TourneyX. It's a $50 entry fee, and then there's a $10 optional big bass buy-in. Everybody who buys into the big bass, that money goes into a pot, and we pay them out at the end of the tournament.
And that all goes through PayPal.
All right, they're PayPal.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that all
And
goes through PayPal to us. And of course, if you're not already a KFNW member, you also need to be a KFNW member to fish this event. So go to our website, click the join button in the top menu, and that'll allow you to become a member. You can, if you're not a member yet, you can do a single event membership for $25. That'll get you through that event, or you can pay $50 and that'll cover you for the whole season. One
perfect.
thing Alex's question reminded me of that we didn't talk about, but we did talk about it before, I hope everybody knows, is AOI for this event. Because we've got 3 divisions fishing, your AOI is going to be counted only by the division that you normally fish in. So I'm going to calculate the AOI. I'm going to split everybody up into 3 divisions. We're all fishing one event, and all the prize money and everything is as if we are one division. That's how it will work. But the AOI, I'm going to split us up like we're 3 divisions fishing by ourselves on that day, like the other folks weren't even there. And I'm going to track your AOI points that way. Otherwise, it gets messy, because then people from other divisions could actually interfere with your AOI points, and that's not really fair. So so that's how I will track AOI.
All right, and one more question I had.
Sure.
For they're all going to be all the bass that we catch are based off of length, right?
Correct.
Including the big bass.
Yes, everything's linked. We don't do weight on anything.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Alex.
Mhm.
Who else has got a question? Any hands raised? There's no way we covered all your questions. That's impossible. Joe's got one. Oop, I hit ask to unmute right as you unmuted yourself, Joe. Sorry.
That's all good. So just double checking that we're going to be voting on the motor things there at that captain's meeting
That's correct.
at Wallula, or however you pronounce it.
You got it. You got it right.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because I mean, if someone can't make it, if they wanted to vote on it, how would they be able to vote?
If they can't make it, like we've got an angler here who uses a motor in our online challenges, and he uses them in opens and things like that. But obviously at our tour events, he does not use a motor. And I kind of know who he is, and I know what that is. I won't say we will ignore it completely. If you can't make it or don't make it to that, let me know, and I will factor that in, but it won't be factored in as strongly as if you were there, is what I'll say. I'm going to look at just the vote and see what the numbers are. And, I'll say this, if it's a really close vote, if it's like, 51 to 49%, we're not going to change things. We're going to leave things the way that they are for the most part. We'll probably change some regulations regarding motors. If we don't allow them for everyone, there'll be some additional restrictions probably next year on the motors that we have. So if you can't make it to the captain's meeting, just let me know if I don't already. I probably do. You know, a lot of the people that have a stronger feeling about that voted in the online one before, so I know. But yeah, let me know and I'll factor it in some way. But we're definitely going to put more emphasis on the people that show up for the captain's meeting, mainly because, like the guy I was talking about, Forrest Gage, he's all the way down on the California border. This is a real haul for him to come to this event. So he can't make it. His schedule just interferes with it. So I get that, but mainly what we're looking for is the people who fish our tour events all the time, who show up and fish the tour events and are competing for AOY. Those are the people we're putting more importance on. People that are there and fish, you know, generally 5 tour events in their division and maybe even a tour event out of their division every year. We're really focusing on them to for this vote to figure out what we're going to do.
I did have one more question though.
Sure.
It's Jim. Those boat launches that are on that river, are they overnight accessible or not allowed?
Say, are they what?
Overnight accessible, like some places don't allow
Can you
you to
camp out
spend the
them?
night.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like if you're
we don't
sleeping in
have
your
any-
truck.
We don't have any of the crazy closed launches and stuff. You can launch at them.
No, not closed. Like you're spending the night in your truck. Some places don't allow you to spend the night.
Oh,
I just wanna-
It's gonna vary.
So-
Some of the private marinas are closed that I've looked at, or semi-private, I should say. They're public, but they discourage that versus the open land it's open.
I don't use any of the actual marinas, but the boat launches, I mean, you can't flop out a camp trailer, but I've not, I fish walleyes all night long in the winter, and I've never had anybody chase me off because my truck was there. So that's all I can tell you. I don't think, but I mean, I'm trying to think of some launches. I get, you know, that I've never
mean, it's
had
not
a
a
no
big
camping
deal
sign
for
for my
me.
face. So you just have to, it'll be posted. It'll be, if you can't stay there overnight, Joe, it will be posted. No overnight camping. That's all you gotta know.
Okay, like I said, it's
Yeah,
not a
and
big deal to
sleep-
me. I'm sleeping in my truck.
Yeah,
Right.
sleeping in your truck.
I have Joe, I have probably 20 people here sleeping in their cars and the tan in their truck, all in my place. So, you know, you can come push into that if you want. I got, you know, a couple acres here that we're just going to stack people up in. So,
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Next, we've got Matt Burdick. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Matt.
So I just got a question on the classic entries. Are we going to do one for each state or one total? How's the classic entries going to work?
Yeah, that's going to work by the winners. I mean, obviously your AOY is another path to the classic, and the AOY, like I already explained, will be separated. But the winner, the one winner, will make it into the classic. If
Marvin, look at it this way, just real quick. If it was a normal year, I say normal because usually our first tournaments are, you know, one here, one in Oregon, one in Idaho. So technically there's 3 people that would qualify for the classic right there in that event. So if we cut it down to 1, which is fine, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying we're dropping our angler numbers at the classic by at least 2.
probably not, but maybe it's possible.
I think
I'm not.
because
I mean, if
technically we're shorting ourselves 2 tournaments and 2 winners.
But
Technically,
tell you what,
because we're all here.
rather
Because
than
we're all here.
why don't well, 3 of us will talk about it afterwards, and we'll follow up on that one.
yeah, I'm not set on that. If we feel
Right.
like the smart thing to do is take the top angler from each division and they all qualify for the classic, I'm not opposed to that either.
It would keep the same numbers as if we were still separated and each of us had our own state.
It only gets a little weird because let's say somebody, the top angler from one of the divisions shows up in 15th place and now they made it in the classic and 12 other people, 13 other people ahead of them didn't. That feels a little weird to me, but we'll
Get
talk
that,
about it
but
offline.
each angler in Idaho knows, hey, if I want to get the classic, I got to qualify ahead of all my Idaho brethren.
Yeah,
Oregon guys, I got to do the same thing, and Washington guys got to do the same thing.
I get it. I see both sides of the argument, and I could be convinced either way. So we'll take a vote on that and make a decision, and we might ask some anglers about it as well, what their opinion is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can discuss it. That's not set in stone. Thanks for causing trouble, Matt.
You're welcome. I'm always good for it.
All right. Next up will be Bart Hill. Take your hand down, Matt. Bart
Hey,
Hill, let's hear from you.
really, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The only really thing that I had to say was that kid a couple kids ago that asked about the links.
Yeah.
And the weight, you might, if he's still there, you might want to mention to him, because it sounds like he's kind of new, that he has to have a catch board, because it didn't
I talked to him this
sounds like
morning. I talked to him this morning on the phone for about 45 minutes, and we went over all that.
Okay.
He definitely needs a catch board, and I told him he needs to go on the website and read through all the rules really carefully. And as always, I say, read through the rules, and when you're done reading through the rules, read through them again.
Hear him again.
And when you're done,
Okay.
Read them one more
read through 'em
time.
again.
And the John Day thing, if I'm not mistaken, that is an Oregon tournament, right?
It's not affiliated with us. It has nothing to do with KFNW.
No,
We're just promoting it for them. It will be in the state of Oregon, so you will need an Oregon fishing
Yeah.
license.
Yep.
That's what I was
Okay.
wondering.
I just want to be sure. Yeah.
The good thing about buying an Oregon license, for those of you that want, if you download the ODF&W app on your phone, you can buy your fishing license. It shows up on your phone. You can screenshot it, because in case you don't have service there at LePage, which up in the canyon you won't. You
Yep.
can screenshot it, and if you get checked, you just show them, hey, I got a fishing license right here on my phone, and it's pretty simple. So I wish Washington would go to that, because it would make it simple. But so you can download the app, buy the license, and then it's right there. It shows all your endorsements that you're supposed to have and everything.
Yeah. So it's a good point, Bart, for the Washington folks or the Idaho folks who are already buying a Washington license, they would have to buy then an Oregon license, at least a day license for that. It's something to consider. And for the Washington folks, same thing. But the thing is, if you're coming back to Western Washington or where most of our anglers are in Oregon, from Portland down to Albany kind of area, or Eugene area, if you're coming back there, you're going to drive right over LePage Park anyway. You're going to drive right next to it. So you just have to get up a little early if you want to come back and do it.
I plan on trying to get down and fish in a couple of Oregon tournaments. I had fun with you guys. That was the only in-person tournament I got to fish.
It was
last
great
year
having
with,
you. You picked the one event that was all miniature fish, but it was great
The
hanging
guys
out
who
with you and fishing with you.
catch today. I was like, probably 25 or 30. And I'm like, my God, I didn't know it was a 10-inch minimum. So yeah, that was fun. But the group of guys was fun. I had a lot of fun with them. So
Well,
I'm gonna
great.
come
We
down.
love,
and
we
fish
love
with you
having
guys.
you too. Thanks, Bart.
All right, thank you.
And thank you. And next up is Colin Sutton, who also fished that same event.
That was a blast. We had fun having you, Bart. My question probably won't come up, but it was kind of interesting to see what happened at Berryessa. Would you mind going over that lines out?
Oh, with Greg.
Oh,
To the second,
Well, that
yeah.
was the native event, but that's a good point. We'll talk about it here. We kind of already have that issue covered in all of our events to make sure that doesn't happen. So I would recommend you read the rule about it.
Mhm.
We're talking about the second that lines out happens. And our rule here in KFNW is, like, let's say, what time is, do I have it up right here? So our lines out time, that, let's So I'll update that. That isn't on there. Our launch route is 1:15, and it will be 1:15:00.
Gotcha.
If you catch a fish at 1:15 and 1 second, that fish will be denied. It's too late. And when I say catch a fish, I mean your submission photo, the split second that you take your photo, you capture the time that you took that photo. And if that photo was taken at 1:15 and 1 second, that fish is going to be late. If the time taken is 1:15 and 00, you're all good. That fish will be accepted.
Gotcha. Appreciate that.
Super. Thank you. I'm putting you, thank you. Woo, there's the background noise I was talking about. Thanks, Colin. Bart and Colin, you need to take your hands down. Great, thanks, guys. Next up is going to be Kent Boatwright. Isn't that the most amazing name for a kayak angler?
I get that it sounds like a weatherman a lot, but yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks. This is my first year participating, instead of kind of just watching on the sidelines. I think you guys do a really great job. I went to American Lake last weekend, and it was great. So just want to say that and appreciate it. I had kind of two questions now after listening. One, I'll try you on your Wild West Bass question to see if you know anything maybe about the boundaries. I'm sitting here looking at, LePage Park and the John Day River. It goes pretty far out. I just didn't know if maybe you knew the boundaries there.
When we talked about it before, it's going to be a shotgun start. So you're going to launch at LePage Park. And my understanding was they didn't care. You can go as far up the John Day as you can navigate to. You can't get out and, there's nowhere really you could drive.
It's a pretty simple place to fish, man. The bridge is the boundary. You can't go past it. And then you can go upriver. 10 miles upriver is the John Day Narrows, and I guarantee you're not going to go through them.
You're not going to go up there. No.
So you can fish anything you want in there. There's no place to go. There's no roads to come down on. There's no
tributaries to get.
No ponds.
No.
It's the river. It's just the river.
And it's not a real big river there. I mean, you could cast almost across it, certainly halfway across it you can cast, even at its kind of widest point. And of course, the further up you go, it gets a little skinnier.
It gets skinnier. I don't think anybody's going to make the 10-mile trek to the Narrows, but up at the Narrows, you can almost jump across it in some places. Yeah. So it gets deep, but it gets real skinny. But I don't think any of us will make it up that far. I mean, you could.
I was just looking at
the answer to that. Unless they change something from when we talked about it before, that should be the case.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. And then I had kind of a follow up to the motor question. I know we're voting on it. When we get there on that Friday, I was just wondering, has there ever been any consideration to limit or restrict, pedal drives in the same way that motors are talked about?
Not really. No, we haven't put any restrictions on pedal drives. We've, this is the thing. Some of these same arguments go back to when pedal drives were introduced, and a lot of the same stuff happened then. Same things were said then, and now nobody sneezes at pedal drives. So no, we don't differentiate. The only differentiation we do right now with motors for those people that do have an exemption because they've got a disability, and we allow them to use motors now for certain events that are a shotgun start and that you got to travel a distance really to get to good fishing. We might delay them by 5-10 minutes, but that's about it. That's really the only difference we do. We don't do a delay. They did that down at Lake Berryessa. They did do a 5-minute delay between paddlers and pedalers, and then they did a 5 minutes more between pedalers and motors. And it was mixed. Some people loved that. I talked to one guy who has a motor, and he's like, it was great. He said, I took off and I passed somebody with a paddle after, he said they got like 1.5 miles out, and he passed, and then he got to the last pedaler and they were like 2.5 miles out. So yeah. That's the only
Seems fair.
time we would do something like that. We don't do anything different with peddlers and paddlers right now.
Okay. Thanks for the answers. Appreciate
Unless they're peddling something that they want us to buy. That ain't happening. They're restricted. That's PEDDLE. Any more questions? Anybody else? Is there anything in the chat? You've been watching the chat, Jim? Any
Yeah,
questions
I've been
you know we
answering
need to
some of
cover?
the chat.
If you come up with another question, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll go into the chat and see if there's anything in there.
Me and Chris have been answering questions in the chat. So
Yeah, I didn't even look because I've been focusing here, but
No, they've been addressed or we asked.
everything's been addressed there. Anybody asked anything in chat that you don't feel like was answered that you want to ask? Anybody else? Come on, questions, people.
did Cherie get her question answered? Is she on still?
She did. She did.
Okay. Oh, Marvin.
Yeah.
I just got a message. So I got somebody that can't get to the 5 p.m. Captain's meeting. So I guess we're gonna have to come up with a time when we decide to do the
And a place.
in-person.
Yeah. The
And a place.
time I can probably tell you now. I mean, our virtual check-in time. It doesn't look right. Well, I guess it is. Oh yeah, it is because it's the lines in. Our virtual check-in time is 4:15 to 5:15 a.m. because the lines in is 5:15 a.m. So I'll probably do the physical check-in. I mean, how much time are we talking about max between a spot and a launch? If we pick a kind of central spot to meet, and how long might they have to drive to get to their launch? An hour?
Well, it depends. Let's say a person wants to go to McNary Dam from here. That's 30 minutes of driving. If it's somewhere up in this area where we're up in the upper part of the place of Tri-Cities here, it could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. It just depends. So
Okay, so that tells me probably I'm going to make. I might go a little earlier than the beginning of the virtual check-in. I might go to like 3:45 to 4:45, something like that, which is launch time.
All right, you got one more question there,
Yes,
Marvin,
yeah,
from William.
No, you don't have to do both check-ins. If you've been at the if I understand correctly what you're saying, if you've been to the captain's meeting, you don't have to. You just do your virtual check-in in the morning. I guess you must have come in late and missed. We talked about that.
yeah, he was asking about
Okay.
the.
Yeah.
Posted up. I
No,
told him.
if you're at the captain's meeting, you can get up in the morning and go to your launch and do your virtual check-in and take a selfie of yourself at the launch. Hopefully that shows you and your kayak and your flag and your light. And then you can fish. You can't fish yet until lunch.
So to get back to that question real quick, we will come up with a time and a place for the in-person in the morning, and
it'll probably be around the Kennewick area. It'll be in that kind of central area.
Okay.
It'll be somewhere around there, but yeah, we'll have to talk about that and figure out exactly where. And
Okay.
those people will have to come and meet me in the morning.
Yep.
And I'll get them checked in. I'll do a board check. I'll make sure they know what they're doing and they're safe and all those kinds of things.
All right, good. So then we'll get back with them prior to.
Yeah, reach out to Jim or me or Chris if you absolutely cannot make it to the captain's meeting. And I mean, absolutely, like really try. And if you can't, if there's no way you can, then let us know. And those people are going to have to meet me in the morning.
I have one.
Yeah,
and we can talk about it when we're
let's
off.
keep track. We'll keep track of those names
Yep.
so we know.
Yep.
Because what we're going to have to do is compare that list to our list at the captain's meeting. And you
Well,
need
they're
to be
gonna
on
have
one-
to-
You need to be on one of those two lists.
And they're gonna have to, like, this individual, I don't have a hard copy for the waiver.
So I'll have to get a waiver from them as well.
Waiver and AIS paperwork is gonna have to be
Yep.
done.
Yep.
So,
It'll have to be a separate AIS sheet, but that's fine.
we've lost 10 folks.
Yeah, nobody's asking questions much anymore, so they feel like.
Okay,
out there.
easy enough.
Anybody else? Last chance for a question? If I haven't gotten back to your emails recently, I meant to say this earlier. I'm sorry. I've been in the middle of moving, and the last week of my life has been very chaotic. But I'm doing my best to keep up, and I will get back to you.
Alrighty. Guys, if you have any questions, especially my guys, man, reach out anytime. Don't be nervous about asking me a question or anything else. I'll answer it. If I don't have the answer, I'll find the answer, but make sure you reach out. I tell everybody, just reach out. So.
Super.
That-
Thanks so much, everybody, for showing up. And like I said, I'll post this on YouTube. So if you came in late, watch the beginning, catch up to where you joined us.
All right. Thanks, Marvin. I'm going to give you a phone call. Yep.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks,
I'll
Paul.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. I'll see you later.
All right.